6 March 1944, northern France. Over the grey cloud layers above the Pas-de-Calais, a single American heavy bomber lags behind its formation, engine strained, fuselage scarred from flak. Inside its tail turret sits a 20-year-old gunner on his first combat mission. He has never fired his weapons in anger. He has never seen an enemy aircraft outside of training silhouettes. Ahead of him, climbing fast through the bomber's blind arc, is a Luftwaffe fighter flown by one of Germany's most experienced aces, a man with dozens of confirmed victories and years of combat behind him. Doctrine says the outcome is already decided. Experience always beats inexperience. Veterans do not lose to rookies. This encounter should last seconds. They were wrong. By early 1944, the air war over Western Europe has reached a level of intensity unmatched in aviation history. The United States Army Air Forces are executing daylight precision bombing on an industrial scale, sending hundreds of B-17 flying fortresses and B-24 Liberators deep into occupied territory. The objective is not tactical support. It is destruction of Germany's capacity to wage war. Ball-bearing plants, aircraft factories, oil refineries. Every mission is a test of endurance measured in altitude, oxygen flow, and steel. For the Luftwaffe, the defense of the Reich has become a war of attrition. Experienced pilots are irreplaceable. Fuel is scarce. Aircraft production struggles to keep pace with losses. Yet the German fighter arm still retains a core of veteran aces, men who have survived Poland, France, Britain, Russia, and now face the Americans in the cold, thin air above Europe. Their role is explicit: break the bomber formations, kill the lead aircraft, and force the rest to scatter. The American bomber crews know the odds. They are trained to fly in tight formation, overlapping fields of fire, each aircraft a node in a defensive web. Lone bombers die quickly. Stragglers are hunted. Gunners are taught patterns, angles, discipline, but training cannot replicate combat. The first time tracers cut through the sky, instinct takes over, or fails. The bomber drifting behind the formation belongs to a unit flying its first missions over France. Mechanical trouble has forced it to throttle back. The distance grows. The protective geometry of the combat box stretches thin. German radar stations have already marked it. Controllers vector interceptors toward the isolated target. In a fighter airfield less than 20 minutes away, a veteran pilot straps in. He has intercepted bombers hundreds of times. He understands their blind spots, their firing delays, their psychological limits. He knows that attacking from the rear, slightly below, minimizes exposure. He climbs with purpose, conserving energy, positioning himself for a single decisive pass. Inside the bomber, the rookie gunner scans his sector through frost-rimmed glass. Oxygen mask tight, fingers stiff in heated gloves, his checklist is complete. Ammunition belts feed smoothly, he reports nothing. Seconds stretch, then a dark shape appears, growing fast, unmistakable. The call goes out over the intercom. Enemy fighter, 6 o'clock. Training says wait, do not fire early, close the distance. Let the enemy commit. The German fighter opens fire first. Cannon shells tear through the bomber's tail section, ripping metal, severing control cables. The aircraft shudders, warning lights flare. The veteran ace expects panic, wild shooting, tracers arcing harmlessly wide. He presses closer, lining up for the kill. The rookie gunner does not panic. He tracks the fighter smoothly, compensating for closure rate, ignoring the vibration, the noise, the fear compressing his chest. He fires a short burst, then another. He adjusts instinctively, not with textbook precision, but with focus sharpened by necessity. The distance collapses, tracers converge. The fighter's engine explodes in flame. The ace never pulls out. The German aircraft snaps into a dive, trailing smoke, disappearing through cloud toward the fields below. Inside the bomber, there is no celebration, only disbelief, damage reports, emergency procedures. The mission continues because it has to. The rookie gunner has just shot down a veteran ace. He will not understand the significance until much later. And the air war will not slow down to acknowledge it. This is only the beginning. The bomber does not turn back. Despite the shattered tail section and the missing control responsiveness, the aircraft holds formation as best it can, nursing damaged engines and bleeding altitude. In early 1944, turning back early is often more dangerous than pressing on. Stragglers attract fighters. Formations offer survival. The pilot makes the call. They continue toward the target. Inside the tail turret, the rookie gunner's hands shake only after the adrenaline fades. He checks his instruments mechanically, reporting damage, scanning again. No one congratulates him. No one has time. The intercom is clipped, professional. Another fighter could appear at any moment. The sky has not forgiven them. Above Germany's western defenses, the loss of a veteran ace is immediately felt. By this stage of the war, Luftwaffe Staffel commanders know exactly how many experienced pilots remain. Each one is a finite resource. When a fighter fails to return, there is no replacement of equal quality. Training programs have been shortened. New pilots are arriving with a fraction of the hours veterans once logged. Every lost ace increases the burden on those who remain. The German pilot's last engagement is recorded not by emotion, but by paperwork. Radar logs show contact lost. A crash report follows later, based on wreckage recovered near a village outside Calais. The number of victories attached to his name will be tallied and archived. His opponent will remain unknown. Back in the bomber stream, the mission reaches its most dangerous phase, bomb run. Flak thickens as formations approach their target. Black bursts fill the sky, precise and relentless. The damaged bomber struggles to maintain altitude. The pilot locks the aircraft into the bomb run despite degraded controls. Bombs must be released together. Formation discipline overrides individual survival. The rookie gunner watches flak bursts bloom ahead, knowing he cannot influence this phase of the mission at all. His role is suddenly irrelevant. The enemy he defeated is gone, replaced by impersonal artillery fire reaching blindly into the sky. Bombs away. The aircraft lurches upward as weight leaves the bay. Almost immediately, a flak burst detonates beneath the fuselage, punching more holes through already weakened structure. The tail shakes violently. The gunner braces, convinced the turret will shear off. It does not. On the return leg, the bomber finally falls behind completely. Fuel is low. One engine is running rough. The formation pulls away. This is when Luftwaffe pilots normally finish the job. But no fighters appear. The veteran aces who once hunted these stragglers are dwindling. Many are dead. Others are grounded by lack of fuel. Some are flying their final missions in days or weeks yet to come. The bomber limps across the channel alone. When it lands in England, ground crews count the holes. Intelligence officers debrief the crew. Claims are noted cautiously. A gunner reporting a destroyed fighter is not unusual. Confirmations require witnesses, wreckage, corroboration. In this case, none exists from the American side. The rookie gunner receives no immediate credit. He is assigned another mission. Then another. War does not pause for individual moments of triumph. Only later, through German records recovered after the war, will historians piece together what happened in that patch of sky over northern France. A rare intersection where experience, doctrine, and expectation collapsed under the pressure of a single decisive burst from a first-time gunner. And this was not an isolated incident. It was a warning sign. By the spring of 1944, the balance of air combat over Western Europe has shifted so subtly that few commanders recognize it in real time. Reports still describe German fighters as aggressive, lethal, and technically proficient. Losses remain high. Bombers continue to fall, but beneath the surface something is eroding. Not equipment, not courage, experience. The Luftwaffe's fighter arm enters the year already hollowed out. In 1940 and 1941, pilots were rotated home after long combat tour. Veterans trained replacements. Survival knowledge transferred. That system collapsed under the demands of a prolonged war. By 1943, pilots are staying at the front until death, capture, or injury. There is no rotation. There is no recovery cycle. Skill drains out of the system one cockpit at a time. The veteran ace shot down by the rookie gunner represents more than an individual loss. He embodies a tactical culture built over years of combat. Spain, Poland, France, Britain, Russia. He knows how bombers behave. He understands their fields of fire. He recognizes when a formation is weakening and when it is baiting him. That knowledge dies with him. Replacing it is impossible. New German pilots arriving in early 1944 average fewer than 160 flight hours. Some have less than 100. They are expected to intercept heavy bombers flying at altitude, under fighter escort, through flak corridors, using aircraft that are increasingly difficult to maintain. There is no margin for error. They face crews who fly mission after mission, accumulating combat time at an industrial scale. On the Allied side, survival statistics tell a brutal story. A heavy bomber crew must complete 25 missions to go home. In early 1943, the odds are slim. By mid-1944, they improve, not because missions are safer, but because German resistance is thinning unevenly. The danger does not disappear, it becomes unpredictable. For rookie gunners, this creates a paradox. They are more likely than ever to encounter enemy fighters, yet increasingly likely to face opponents who make mistakes. Misjudged angles, delayed breakaways, overconfidence rooted in outdated assumptions. The veteran ace had attacked exactly as doctrine demanded. Head-on, closing fast, minimizing exposure to defensive fire. That tactic worked when bomber gunners were poorly trained and overwhelmed. By By 1944, it is becoming increasingly lethal for the attacker instead. Inside bomber crews, training has changed as well. Gunnery schools emphasize discipline over aggression, short bursts, target tracking, fire only when geometry is correct. Crews are taught that panic wastes ammunition and reveals positions. The rookie gunner follows this doctrine instinctively. He does not spray the sky, he waits, he fires once. The official records will not celebrate this moment. The war moves too quickly. Casualty lists lengthen. Missions blur together. The rookie gunner's name remains buried in after-action reports, his engagement reduced to a line item, if noted at all. Yet this single encounter reflects a broader reality forming across the European air war. Veteran aces are becoming rare targets, but when they fall, the impact is disproportionate. Every loss accelerates decline. Every replacement widens the gap in skill. Every mistake compounds risk for those still flying. By the summer of 1944, the Luftwaffe will be fighting a defensive air war with pilots who have never fired their guns in combat before meeting American bombers head-on. Meanwhile, Allied crews will be flying with hardened reflexes, standardized procedures, and overwhelming numbers. The rookie gunner does not know this yet. He only knows the narrow confines of his turret, the vibration of engines, the smell of cordite lingering long after the guns have cooled. He knows that another mission is coming, and that the sky will again demand attention without warning. And somewhere across the channel, German airfields grow quieter, not from lack of aircraft, but from the absence of men who know how to fight this war as it now exists. The next engagement will not look the same. In the weeks that follow, missions blur into a rhythm defined by engines starting before dawn, briefing rooms heavy with cigarette smoke, and maps layered with red string tracing routes deeper into occupied Europe. For the rookie gunner, survival becomes routine without ever becoming normal. Each flight reinforces muscle memory. Scan, identify, track, wait, fire only when the angle is right. Across the channel, German fighter units struggle to adapt to a sky they no longer dominate. Radar stations still detect bomber streams forming over England. Interceptors still scramble, but coordination frays. Fuel shortages reduce training flights. Aircraft sit grounded for want of spare parts. Commanders must choose which sectors to defend, knowing the rest will go unprotected. The German response grows increasingly desperate. Head-on attacks continue, but they are rushed, poorly timed, sometimes executed by pilots who have barely mastered formation flying. Others attempt rear-quarter approaches, lingering too long in defensive arcs they were once trained to avoid. The bombers' guns, once a deterrent, now become executioners. On one mission over the Ruhr, the rookie gunner witnesses a scene that would have been unthinkable a year earlier. Two German fighters attack simultaneously, but without coordination. One breaks early, the other presses too long. Defensive fire from multiple bombers converges. The fighter explodes midair. No claim is filed, no name recorded. The psychological toll accumulates silently. Bomber crews learn to recognize patterns in German behavior. Veterans within the formations begin predicting attacks seconds before they happen. The enemy's movements are no longer inscrutable. They are readable. This does not make the missions easier. Flak remains relentless. Mechanical failures claim aircraft without warning. Weather scatters formations, leaving gaps that fighters still exploit when they can. Losses continue. Men are killed not because of mistakes, but because probability eventually catches up. For the Luftwaffe, the collapse is not sudden. It is cumulative. Each sortie costs more than it gains. Every engagement risks pilots who cannot be replaced. High command understands the numbers but cannot reverse them. The air war has become a contest of production and training depth, and Germany is losing both. The veteran ace's absence becomes noticeable within his unit. Younger pilots seek guidance that no longer exists. Leadership roles fall to men with fewer victories and less experience. Tactical decisions grow conservative, then erratic. Orders conflict. Initiative disappears. Meanwhile, Allied air superiority tightens like a vice. Long-range escort fighters now accompany bombers deep into Germany. The Luftwaffe must fight through escorts before reaching bombers, draining energy and fuel before the real battle even begins. For rookie bomber gunners, this means fewer attacks reach their turrets at all. When attacks do occur, they are often brief and poorly executed. The rookie gunner completes his tour months later. He survives his required missions, though many around him do not. He leaves the war with no clear understanding of how close he came to changing another man's fate in that first encounter. His confirmed victory, if it exists at all, is buried in post-war research rather than wartime celebration. What remains undeniable is the pattern his experience reveals. The air war has crossed a threshold. Skill alone can no longer compensate for exhaustion, shortages, and systemic decay. individual brilliance is smothered by strategic reality. The sky over Europe belongs to those who can endure, adapt, and replace losses faster than they occur. The rookie gunner was not an anomaly. He was a sign of what the war had become. By late summer of 1944, the tempo accelerates beyond anything experienced earlier in the war. Missions no longer feel exceptional, they are constant. Day after day, bomber streams lift from English airfields, their destinations ranging from oil refineries to rail yards to armored assembly plants already scarred by previous raids. The sky becomes a corridor of routine violence. For the rookie gunner, now no longer truly a rookie, repetition dulls fear without erasing it. He has learned the sound of approaching fighters before they appear. He can distinguish the silhouette of a Bf-109 from an FW-190 in a heartbeat. He knows when an attacker is committed and when it is already retreating. Experience arrives not as confidence, but as inevitability. On the ground, the German defensive system is breaking under strain. Fighter units are shuffled constantly, pulled from one sector to another in response to Allied pressure. Pilots arrive at unfamiliar airfields, fly with men they barely know, and launch into combat without rehearsed coordination. Radio discipline deteriorates, situational awareness collapses. The plan says intercept, disrupt, destroy. Reality delivers fragmentation. In one engagement over central Germany, American bomber formations encounter resistance that is fierce but disorganized. Fighters attack in ones and twos rather than coordinated waves. Some press home attacks without support. Others abort early, spooked by escort fighters prowling above and behind the bomber stream. Defensive fire fills the gaps left by German hesitation. Losses mount on both sides, but the exchange rate is unforgiving. A down bomber costs a crew of 10. A down fighter costs a pilot who may have flown fewer than a dozen combat sorties. The arithmetic is brutal, and it favors the side that can absorb loss without collapsing. The Luftwaffe cannot. Fuel shortages force restrictions on flight time. Pilots are ordered to conserve ammunition. Training sorties are cancelled. Young pilots learn combat in fragments, one engagement here, another there, without continuity. Survivors pass along advice informally, often contradicting doctrine that no longer reflects reality. Against this backdrop, encounters like the one that first defined the rookie gunner become more common. New Allied gunners face German pilots who hesitate, misjudge distance, or fail to break away in time. The skill gap narrows not because Allied crews become invincible, but because German proficiency erodes. High command understands the crisis but lacks solutions. Jet fighters are introduced too late and in too few numbers. New tactics are proposed, revised, abandoned. Orders change weekly. Morale fractures as pilots realize that survival depends less on skill than on luck. In contrast, Allied air forces operate with growing confidence born of predictability. Missions are planned with redundancy. Navigation errors are compensated by overlapping formations. Losses are expected, calculated, absorbed. Replacement crews arrive continuously, trained within a system designed for scale rather than brilliance. The rookie gunner's early engagement, once an anomaly, now reads like a preview. It marks the moment when the air war quietly crossed a point of no return, when experience ceased to guarantee survival, and inexperience ceased to guarantee death. By autumn, the German fighter arm is no longer fighting for control of the sky. It is fighting to slow the inevitable. And every day the bombers return, scarred but airborne, the clock ticks closer to an outcome that cannot be reversed by individual acts of courage, skill, or sacrifice. As 1944 turns toward its final months, the air war reaches a level of intensity that defies earlier assumptions about endurance. Sorties are flown in weather once considered prohibitive. Bombers push through cloud layers, thick with ice, navigational errors measured in miles rather than yards. Engines fail not from combat damage but from sheer overuse, yet operations continue. The German response contracts further. Fighter strength on paper remains substantial, but serviceability tells a different story. Aircraft are cannibalized to keep others flying. Pilots share machines between sorties. Maintenance crews work through nights without parts, improvising repairs that will last only a single mission. Commanders are forced to choose which units will fly and which will wait, grounded by circumstance rather than order. In the air, engagements are shorter and more violent. Escort fighters dominate the approach routes. German pilots are intercepted before they can climb to effective attack altitude. Those who break through arrive exhausted, fuel gauges already edging toward empty. Attacks become desperate, sometimes bordering on reckless. For bomber crews, this changes the texture of fear. The threat no longer comes primarily from skilled, methodical attackers. It comes from unpredictability. Fighters dive from poor angles. Pilots linger too long. Collisions occur. Explosions happen too close, sending debris ripping through formations. The rookie gunner experiences this shift viscerally. He fires less often now, not because the sky is safe, but because threats vanish quickly, either destroyed by escorts or disengaging abruptly. When he does fire, it is often at fleeting targets that appear and disappear in seconds. One afternoon mission over southern Germany encapsulates the state of the war. A small group of fighters penetrates the escort screen and attacks the bombers from the rear. Their approach is ragged, timing is off, defensive fire converges almost immediately. One fighter breaks apart under sustained fire. Another pulls up too late and collides with a bomber's debris field. The remaining attackers flee without firing effectively. This is not victory in any triumphant sense. It is attrition reaching its end state. For German pilots, morale is shaped by a growing awareness that the system has failed them. Even experienced survivors recognize that tactics no longer compensate for numerical and logistical inferiority. Each sortie feels less like combat and more like exposure to unavoidable risk. The veteran ace who fell to the rookie gunner would have recognized this reality instantly had he lived. He would have understood that his methods, once deadly, were becoming liabilities, that precision now required support that no longer existed. On the ground, Allied advances across France accelerate the crisis. Airfields are lost, radar coverage shrinks, warning times shorten, interceptors scramble with minutes instead of hours, coordination deteriorates further. The sky becomes crowded, chaotic, and unforgiving. By December, the Luftwaffe's capacity to mount sustained resistance over Western Europe is effectively broken. Local successes occur, but they do not alter the trajectory. Every engagement drains resources that cannot be replaced. Every pilot lost widens the gap. The rookie gunner survives the war without fanfare. His defining moment remains uncelebrated, its significance apparent only in hindsight. Yet that first engagement captures a truth that statistics alone cannot convey. The war did not turn solely on factories, fuel, or numbers. It turned when experience stopped being enough. When the winter of 1944 arrives, it brings with it the last illusions of reversal. Snow covers airfields, fog delays launches, crews wait in freezing huts while engines idle, burning precious fuel before aircraft even leave the ground. The war does not slow. It grinds forward under harsher conditions, indifferent to exhaustion. The Luftwaffe attempts one final resurgence. Orders are issued demanding aggressive interception, regardless of odds. Pilots are instructed to close range at all costs, to break formations, to inflict damage even if survival is unlikely. Discipline hardens into fatalism. Missions are flown with the understanding that return is uncertain. For bomber crews, these weeks are among the most dangerous of the war, not because German strength has returned, but because desperation produces unpredictability. Attacks come from unconventional angles. Fighters dive through flak bursts without regard for self-preservation. Some pilots fire wildly, others ram deliberately. Defensive gunners are warned to expect anything. The rookie gunner, now months removed from his first engagement, senses the difference immediately. These are not calculated attacks, they are last attempts. He tracks targets that behave erratically, fighters that hold course too long, break too late, or never break at all. The air feels heavier, crowded with men who know time is running out. On one mission near the Rhine, a lone German fighter appears beneath the formation, climbing steeply through flak. He fires once ineffectively, then continues straight toward the bombers. Defensive guns open up. The fighter disintegrates before reaching ramming distance. No one cheers, no one speaks. The moment passes, absorbed into the larger violence of the mission. The plan says maintain formation, maintain fire discipline, return. Reality delivers survival measured in seconds. By this stage, German command structures are fracturing. Communications fail. Orders arrive late or contradict one another. Pilots are launched into skis already dominated by Allied escorts, without coordination or support. Some units fly multiple sorties per day until aircraft or men are exhausted beyond use. The contrast between expectation and reality becomes unbearable. Veterans who once dictated engagements now react to them. Initiative belongs entirely to the attackers. German fighters are no longer hunters. They are obstacles. For Allied crews, the end is visible but not close enough to relax. Casualties continue. Accidents increase as fatigue sets in. Training cannot fully prepare replacements for the chaos of these final months. Survival remains probabilistic, never guaranteed. The rookie gunner completes his final mission without incident. There is no climactic battle, no defining confrontation. He climbs out of his aircraft on English soil and realizes the war has moved past him. His role is finished. Others will fly tomorrow. Across Europe, the air war has already decided the ground war's outcome. Armies advance under near-constant air cover, supply lines collapse, German units retreat without fuel, without ammunition, without hope of relief from above. The veteran ace's death, once a single data point, now fits into a pattern that defines the war's conclusion. Individual mastery cannot survive systemic collapse. Experience, no matter how refined, cannot overcome absence of fuel, training, and time. The sky no longer belongs to those who know it best. It belongs to those who can keep coming back. When the war in Europe ends in May 1945, the accounting begins in silence rather than ceremony. Airfields are inspected, wreckage is catalogued, losses are converted into tables, ratios, and totals that struggle to convey what actually happened in the sky. Victory is measured in territory gained and regimes collapsed, not in individual encounters that quietly altered the balance long before the end. The air war's outcome appears inevitable in retrospect, but inevitability did not feel real to those who lived inside it. For years, German fighter doctrine emphasized individual skill, initiative, and mastery of the aircraft. That philosophy produced aces whose names became legends, but it was built on the assumption that wars would be short, that pilots could be rested, rotated, and refined. The reality of industrial war shattered that assumption. By 1944, the conflict no longer rewarded brilliance in isolation. It rewarded systems that could train, deploy, lose, and replace crews at scale. Allied air forces did not rely on irreplaceable men. They relied on processes, training pipelines, standardized tactics, overlapping coverage. When one crew fell, another took its place. The rookie gunner's story fits precisely into that transformation. He was not supposed to win that encounter. Doctrine said experience prevails. Intelligence said German aces still dominated close-range engagements. History suggested that first-time gunners panicked, overcorrected, wasted ammunition. Reality delivered something else. A veteran pilot trusted assumptions shaped by years of success. A rookie followed procedure exactly as taught. One misjudged moment erased years of accumulated skill. The sky did not care who had flown longer. That was the quiet turning point of the air war. Not a single battle, not a single raid, but thousands of small moments where experience met a system that no longer allowed mistakes, where the margin for survival vanished, where the rules changed without announcement. After the war, German records reveal how often this happened in the final years. Losses attributed to inexperienced enemy gunners, engagements ending abruptly, attacks terminated too late, aces lost not in heroic duels, but in brief, almost anonymous exchanges. The rookie gunner returned to civilian life without medals for that first kill. His name never entered official histories. His moment existed only in fragments, after-action reports, missing aircraft logs, post-war research conducted decades later. Yet his experience reflects a truth larger than any individual. World War II in the air was not decided when one side ran out of courage or skill. It was decided when the structure supporting that skill collapsed, when mastery became unsustainable, when experience could no longer be preserved long enough to matter. The veteran ace did everything right by the standards of an earlier war. The rookie gunner did exactly what this war demanded. And the sky chose accordingly.